It looks like everything that we've seen over the last few weeks is now for naught. All of Trump's rhetoric about having something, giving something to Ukraine potentially, and then Putin's phone call, which was going to lead to a summit. Well, now the Russians are backing away from this whole idea that they would even have a summit, even though Putin apparently promised that he was going to have a summit and made plans for the summit. And Trump is just kind of looking like he's had the rug pulled out from under him again. Okay, let's start here. Sir Richard Branson, and I don't quote him very often, but said the utter irony of Putin and Trump meeting soon in Budapest to jointly seal Ukraine's fate should not be lost on anyone. This is the very same city where the US, UK, and Russia came together 31 years ago to give Ukraine ironclad assurances that its territorial integrity would be respected and protected within existing borders in exchange for giving up a third of the world's nuclear weapons to Russia. Ukraine trusted the US, trusted the UK, transferred all of its nuclear weapons to Russia, and joined the Non-Proliferation Treaty. Well, he doesn't have to worry about it because I don't think the thing's actually going to happen. So Anton Goroshenko is showing this. Russians are beginning to indirectly disrupt the meeting in Budapest. Official Moscow has started rejecting President Trump's proposal. Russia wants only one thing: pressure on Ukraine and concessions from it. Today, Peskov stated that Russia's position remains unchanged. You're going to hear that again from Lavrov as well. Putin is afraid to directly disrupt the meeting in Budapest. He does not want to stop the war along the front line. Therefore, he will stall for a time and engage in his long and difficult talks. That's what's playing out. And so you see stupid articles like this: an ex-Russian spy, "Don't go to Budapest, Mr. Putin." Russian ex-spy Andrei Bezrukov has warned Putin against traveling to Budapest to meet Donald Trump, claiming a British assassination plot could be in motion. No evidence was provided. A trip to Budapest would mark Putin's first visit to a EU country since the war in Ukraine began in 2022. Hungary has already told Moscow it won't enforce the ICC arrest warrant against him. Well, Orban's not going to have to worry about it because I don't think that Putin's actually going to go. Here's the actual article about this Russian spy claiming that he's very, very serious concerns about Budapest. Okay. And then you see other propagandists like Spetsnaz 007 saying this: "I thought this was already established. There will be no ceasefire in Ukraine until the root causes of the conflict is addressed." You're going to hear Lavrov say that again. Okay, same kind of thing. No NATO denazification, end to hostilities, Russian ethnics. And we don't want another Minsk. Ukraine will either sign a permanent peace deal or we'll keep marching to Odessa and Kyiv. And then showing this kind of picture, this silliness here of like this is supposed to be Ukrainians. Well, it turns out that if you just look at it and then you ask Grok, this was posted on this picture was posted on X, and if you ask Grok, the picture associated with the target post appears to be a manipulated or staged image originally shared in an earlier post by the other side. And then if you scroll down a little bit more, it says a fact-checking analysis from a reply from John Scheffler O, post ID, whatever the number is, references a Grok verification query indicating that the image has been manipulated. The fact checks from Stop Fake and DW suggest it was possibly originally photographed in 2014, depicting Russian separatists, not Ukrainians, and has been altered to include a swastika flag for propaganda purposes. Okay, so that's a horse of a different color when you look at it that way. Okay, so let's go back and look at what the flag was and what was going on here. Yeah, so this is the kind of silliness that gets posted here. No NATO denazification and the hostilities on Russian ethnics. Okay. So, but then you have more official voices like Kirill Dmitriev saying, "Why did these deep state clowns keep trying to sabotage U.S.-Russia dialogue and try to provoke the bear? Just think about what this clown said. Russian leader Vladimir Putin should be blocked from taking part in high-stakes negotiation designed to freeze the war in Ukraine." He's referencing this Politico article, and if you go into the Politico article, this is Lithuania's foreign minister, Lithuania's foreign minister, Kęstutis Budrys. I can actually pronounce Lithuanian reasonably well. I've been to Lithuania a few times. Believe it or not, I can pronounce these ones generally. Blasts plans for the talks in Hungary, which would mark Putin's first step to an EU country since he launched the first full-scale invasion in February 2022. Quote, I cannot imagine him crossing our airspace, unquote. There is no place for war criminals in Europe. The only place for Putin in Europe is The Hague, in front of the tribunal, not in any of our capitals. Okay, so they're using what you would expect Europeans to be saying about this against them. And he's not wrong, but then they're going to use it for propaganda value. Poland to Putin. Don't even fly over us. Poland has warned Vladimir Putin, if you fly over our airspace on the way to your Trump summit in Hungary, we may have to escort your plane down and hand you over to The Hague. Polish Foreign Minister Sikorski made it clear, I can't guarantee an independent court won't demand action. With Ukraine off limits, Russia would have to cross EU airspace, but almost all EU states are ICC members, and Hungary is the only one trying to leave. So again, they're going to use that kind of for propaganda against them. Here's the Hungarian foreign minister, Peter Szijjártó, says thinks that European politicians are trying to prevent the meeting between President Trump and Putin in Budapest. It's the Europeans. They're bad. European politicians will do everything possible, in fact, everything they can to prevent this meeting, he says. They are not interested in peace at summit in Budapest. They are not interested in peace in general. They are the ones fueling tensions. They want more wars, longer wars, says Szijjártó. Okay, so again, the propaganda value. Now, remember, Trump urged Zelenskyy to accept Putin's terms or be destroyed by Russia. And it was laid out as we're going to freeze it along the line of contact. And like, if you give up Donbass, they'll give up down there and everything will be dreamy. And I'll get a Nobel Peace Prize. Okay. Trump reportedly even shouted and cursed at Zelenskyy during this meeting, demanding that Ukraine surrendered the remaining Donbass territory. Ukraine was seeking tomahawks. That's what they thought was going to happen just a couple days before. Then Putin called and everything went to, well, you know. Trump declined and instead echoed Putin's demands for their call from the day before. So Putin changed the terms of it, but then he's not even going to honor the change of terms. We'll talk about that in just a moment. UK calls to stop the war along the front line. There's a joint statement by Zelenskyy and Starmer and other EU leaders that was just published. The British government has released a document signed by Zelenskyy, UK Prime Minister Starmer, several other European leaders. The signatories are expected to meet later this week at the European Council and in the framework of the Coalition of the Willing. It was signed by Zelenskyy, Starmer, Merz, Macron, Meloni, von der Leyen, Stubb, Fredrickson, Tusk, and others. Okay, so yeah, I mean, and here's what was in the joint statement. I just want to focus on one paragraph here. It's Russia is stalling tactics have shown time and time again that Ukraine is the only party serious about peace. We can all see that Putin continues to choose violence and destruction. That's right. So Zelenskyy came out even again 2 hours ago from the time that I'm recording this. Breaking, Ukraine is ready to end the war, says Zelenskyy. Ukraine has once again expressed its readiness to end the war. That was the signal President Trump gave to his team publicly as well. The front line can become the starting point for diplomacy. Okay, so yeah, he's willing to do it. But in war is kind of like love and war, love and peace have this in common, that like it takes two parties. I get a say, you get a say. If either party doesn't agree, then nothing happens, right? It's true on a date. It's true in war. It's true in peace, right? Now, in war, it's a little different. I get a say, you get a say. It's not that nothing happens. It's that something happens. You want to fight and I don't, we fight. That's the way it works. But in peace, it works the opposite way, where if I want peace and you don't, we continue fighting. Okay. Russia will not agree to a ceasefire until the root causes of the conflict in Ukraine are resolved. Hey, we just heard that from the propagandists. Now we're hearing it from official Lavrov. Okay, Rubio and Lavrov were supposed to meet this week to prep for a Trump-Putin summit. CNN says the meeting is delayed for the time being. That puts Trump's Budapest plans in doubt, but it's more than doubt. You can just Google it yourself, Trump and Putin, and just see what comes up, and it's articles like this. Trump's hope for a quick summit with Putin may be stalled as a pre-meeting is off for now. The pre-meeting is off for now. Trump said Thursday after a call with Putin that the two agreed that there will be a meeting of our high-level advisors next week. That was Putin's agreement. Did he already break his pre-agreement? I mean, come on. Like, at a certain point, you got to realize he's not going to tell the truth and do what he says. The United States' initial meetings will be led by Secretary of State Marco Rubio, together with various other people to be designated, he wrote on Truth Social. However, that anticipated meeting between Rubio and his Russian counterpart, Sergei Lavrov, have been put on hold for the time being, a White House official told CNN. Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov said on Tuesday that the summit cannot be postponed because no date was ever set. You cannot postpone what has not been scheduled. But basically, they're not going to do it. Like, that's the point. Here's a Reuters article. Russia says its terms for Ukraine peace unchanged since August summit. So what are our terms? It's still maximalist. I mean, like, let's go into the article. Russia said on Tuesday that its conditions for peace in Ukraine remain unchanged since the August summit. After speaking to Putin on October 16th, Trump said that U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio and Russian Foreign Minister would meet this week. Moscow gave no timing. Lavrov told reporters he was surprised by the unscrupulous CNN report. Unscrupulous CNN report? That anticipated Rubio-Lavrov meeting had been put on hold for the time being, and that unidentified U.S. officials felt that Russia had still maximalist stance. I want to officially confirm Russia has not changed its position compared to the understandings that were reached in the Alaska summit. So he's saying they're unscrupulous for reporting that we're not going to go to a meeting because we have to have these demands met first before we do that. But Putin agreed to the meeting. So, I mean, that's where we are. RT reporting a truce would now only freeze the conflict. Most of Ukraine would remain under the Nazi regime, Lavrov on Ukraine ceasefire notion. The West is blocking last peace and ignoring the root causes, including NATO expansion and the rights of Russian-speaking citizens, the foreign minister said. Okay, so he's not going to do anything. The ISW is putting this out. Putin's refusal to prepare the Russian people, including the important ultranationalist constituency, to make any concessions in the war in Ukraine is another indicator that he does not intend to diverge from his long-held demands in any future peace. So regardless of what he said, he's not preparing. He's sending Lavrov out to say we can't even have a pre-summit because the underlying causes have not been met yet. So nothing's going to happen here. Former U.S. ambassador to Ukraine, Stephen Pfeffer, told Kyiv Post that Trump got played again by Putin. It sure does look and feel that way, that Trump's been played again, and warned or if he's not been played again, the alternative seems to be, and maybe there's another thing, if you can find another reason, tell me, maybe he just wants to go along with that. I mean, that's the alternative position. If there's another position, I'm willing to entertain it. And warned that Budapest summit is another trap for Ukraine. Now, he says don't burn bridges with Washington, but be ready that Trump won't be of much help. I think that seems fair. Now, but, he was Clinton's ambassador to Ukraine. You have to discount him. Okay, well, here's a senator. Putin is a former KGB agent, master manipulator. Trump should not be letting the man who started this war talk him out of giving weapons to our ally. This is a senator from Arizona. Let's listen.
Vladimir Putin is a former KGB officer. He is a master manipulator. Mm-hmm. The president has one view, then he talks to Vladimir Putin, and he changes his story on this. Of course, Putin does not want Ukraine to get a longer range missile that could go after targets deep into Russia, beyond Moscow and St. Petersburg, by the way. It can range targets much further. It's very accurate. It's a very survivable weapon. And Putin has a conversation with him, and those weapons are now off the table.
Okay, this guy's a former astronaut. He's Senator Mark Kelly from Arizona. Oh, but he's a Democrat senator. Okay, well, let's say you discount him as well because he's a Democrat. Here is Newt Gingrich, former Republican Speaker of the House. I mean, if you can think of any like leading lion kind of Republican, this would be him. Putin's arrogance and dishonesty have been have to be met with determination to stop him from stealing a country. His demand that Ukraine turn over to Donetsk, that in 3 years he has failed to conquer, is insulting and shows his contempt for President Trump and our allies. This is like the arch Republican saying that. President Trump should release the Tomahawk missiles to Ukraine, and the Senate should pass Lindsey Graham's sanctions bill. Putin's strategy of talking while killing has to be made so expensive that he has to quit. Nothing else will work. And if you don't like what Gingrich had to say, let's hear Mike Pompeo. This was Trump's former Secretary of State. Despite what some would have you believe, Vladimir Putin is not winning his war of aggression against Ukraine. Appeasing Putin not only goes against our own strategic interests, it fundamentally misunderstands the facts on the ground. Again, Trump's former Secretary of State. All right, so let me skip over that and go right to this. Darth Putin, in exchange for not sending Tomahawks, I promised Donald I would give up land Russia does not control in Zaporizhia and Kherson. In exchange for Ukraine, Ukraine would give Russia land that we also do not control in Donbass. I mean, that's the terms of the deal, and they still won't even do it. Even with that, they won't come to the table. All right, tell me what you thought about what you saw here. It's deeply frustrating to watch, but I understand that. Put your comments below. I try to read as much as I can. Thank you for the likes, the shares, and the subscribes, and thank you for being the kind of person that cares about Ukraine.